thank you for taking the time out to have a chat with us on Bhanu. I think you bring a very different perspective. We've also been talking to a few people, film, and I think you bring a perspective of theatre and costume design, which very few people know about Bhanu as well. I mean, the theatre part is not well documented, so that's something we want to talk about with you.
Right.
And of course, your other experiences. And frankly, I was quite surprised to hear. I mean, happy to hear that when she passed away, you had gone to her old house and
I just went from here without a second thought.
Without a second thought.
And my driver wasn't here, so I actually just called for a cab and I said I have to go to Warden Road. And
that's, I mean, that sort of thing is quite amazing to hear. Anyway, so what was your first interaction with Bhanu and how did it all begin?
This was 1987 August. Was it June actually? And I was supposed to meet Kumar Shahani. Somebody had already asked me to meet him and taken a photograph of mine and given it to him for a film he was going to direct for the film institute. Then I get to know as soon as I walk out of my final viva, after my final exam at the NSD, my dean is standing there and he's saying, Mita, do you want to earn some 500 rupees? Times of India has sponsored this show and this team has come from Bombay, and the actress is very particular that she wants an actress to do her makeup, not a makeup person, but an actress, because she would. So since we train you in we also train in makeup at the School of Drama as part of the theatre process. So I was like, okay, who is it? And he said, there's a director called Kumar Shahani, there's actress Alaknanda Samarth and all. So for me it was almost like the cosmos is, because I'm supposed to meet him, but I am already being assigned to meet him for a very different reason. And for me, this was a great opportunity to actually observe Kumar at work without, prior to me shooting for him. Not that I knew I was already finalized, but I just imagined that since she's taken my photograph and said meet him, I am doing the film. So I landed up at possibly at the house, the guest house where they were staying. But later on, I remember Bhanu. My first visual memory of her is entering the green rooms at the Kamani Auditorium, because I'd come with my makeup kit and all that, and Alak and all were to arrive for the rehearsal, the run through. That's a very important part of the theatre, as you know. It's the technicals and everything before the audience will come in the next day or so. So I enter this green room and I see this lady very dignified and sitting very quietly, and she's quite huge built. It's like a peaceful mountain sitting, at one side. So the presence is there, even though the presence is almost serene, not really moving or agitated, but it's a presence. So that was Bhanu. I didn't realize who she is then. So she didn't introduce herself to me either, and she just sort of smiled. So I just smiled at her and said hello, and I assumed she's from the team because that was the dressing room assigned, and I started putting my stuff out to start Alak's makeup. And I was also supposed to do Alaknanda's hair or help with it. So I had brought these pins and all, so I just put them aside. And then I was set and I was like, okay, I'm done. So Bhanu then gets up from there, comes, and she takes that bundle of hairpins, the U pins, and she puts them very neatly in a row like that on the table. First she spreads I think some tissue paper. I don't know if tissue paper did exist those days, but there was some paper. And she puts it one, very neatly. And she says, when you do her hair, you just pick it up like this and then you can put it in. And I think I'm right to remember that she actually told me when you put the hairpin in, you don't just put it in, you put it in gently and then you press down on the head so that the point of it does not go towards the skin, but it enters the hair and the bun, and that way you don't poke the actress, the scalp of the person. So I'm like, okay. And then she came in, and then Alak came in, and Alak was she was all a flurry and this, and are you the actress who's going to do my makeup? I'm so glad. Bhanu, this is Mita, she's going to do my makeup and all that. And so then I start, and then Alak my eyes, be very gentle. So I was like, almost okay. And Bhanu sitting there quietly and smiling. And then in some time Kumar Shahani came in to see what was happening, and that's when he told me, "Do you know who this is?" And I'm saying, "Yes, she's Bhanu. She's Bhanu Athaiya, the only Oscar winner we have in this country." And that's when I remembered, oh, Gandhi, this, that, all of that. So that was my first introduction to Bhanu. And my first meeting her, you know, as well. And she had done the costumes. There were two plays that solos that Alak was performing. One was a French translation called The Human Voice. So there was a very Western costume for it, which was very sensuous and very minimal, lot of lace, and because it was a woman on her bed. And then the second one was Kunti, for which she had done this beautiful Amrapali thing. So I remember that time very, very vividly, and that introduction to Bhanu. And as far as, and much later, when I did not one but 3 films for Kumar Shahani, and Kumar Shahani was of course very close to Bhanu, both creatively and as a friend. So then there was much more, but you could ask your next question.
But so which are the films that you did for Kumar Shahani, which was, I think Kaspa was one of them?
Kaspa was Kumar Shahani's film in 1989, but before that in 1987-88, it was Khayal Gatha, and the entire costume design for that was Bhanu Athaiya. Those days was very different, you know. The creative process for any film with directors like Kumar Shahani, Mani Kaul, and even for someone like Govind Nilani later, whose films I acted in, was a very holistic, interactive one in which everyone from the actors to the creative people of most departments would meet for an entire, for like the whole day. And because there weren't these corporate offices where people sat and ordered endless cups of coffee and tea from Swiggy and here, there and wherever, these sessions were either the director's house mostly, where we actually dug into, you know, and they were ongoing. It was almost like a Guru Shishya Parampara kind of thing, where you interacted, you were in the director's house, and then where Kumar lived in Sagar, what was it? Sagar? Shankar Mahal. He was on one floor, Bhanu was on another.
Next, same floor.
Same floor they were together, but we didn't visit Bhanu's house, but her workshop was in the garage downstairs. So very often we would be, since you come and you see the workshop right there, we would actually, I mean, I would stand around there and see all that fabric and her tailors and masters, and then she would be detailing. But I remember being privy, not privy in terms of peeping in, but it was just there in front of us, where when Bhanu and Kumar would talk, we would all just be sitting and listening. There was no agenda that you're the actress, so we need to do your script and you can go. There was no rush. We listened in to every conversation that took place. It took place in front of us. So I remember with Kumar and Bhanu, there would be sometimes hours of discussion on what color was going to be in the film and why. And I remember in particular, because as you know, a young actress, you're also very curious about what's your costume going to be. And I remember this very deep discussion about the kind of blue that they wanted me as Rani Roopmati, the character, to wear. And because it's Mandu and it's Madhya Pradesh and it's monsoon and it's the time of peacocks, you know. And I remember this whole discussion about the peacock blue. But they figured that for the main costume of the body, they will have, and then there was this reason they discussed a lot about it. They would have this ink blue. Then they decided only the bodice, which was going to come here, was going to be this peacock, turquoise peacock color. And then later on, there's a little transition in Roopmati also being sort of symbolic of other things to do with Mandu. So that turquoise would then be replaced by a beautiful something like a leaf green, which you'll find is that incredible blue, then with a turquoise bodice, and then the same incredible blue is repeated again, but it has this green there. And so there were these discussions, and as a 20-something, for me it was fascinating to see that color was not something that was chosen because it's pretty or because it looked nice on the actor or the actress. There was a reason for it to exist in the film. There was a family of colors that would be talked about, what it means to the temperature of the film, to the location. And these were all things we just absorbed. And Bhanu's and Kumar's and Bhanu's discussions were not something that looked like huge intellectual discussions. It was like they were talking about the weather, you know. But they were talking really deep concepts about costume, design, color, tint and hues.
Was there a difference in your interaction experience working as an actor in films and as a theatre actor, like in terms of the costume designing process or the sort of interaction that actors would have with the designer?
See, I think in the theatre we are taught to be fairly self-sufficient, and in the good old days when I was 16, in good old days I say is why, because I don't know about other actresses or actors, but my connection to tailoring started at the age of maybe 11, because we used to have needlework classes in school, and you had crochet and you were taught 15-20 kinds of stitches, which were embroidery stitches as well as running stitches, where if you don't have a machine, how do you actually do a machine stitch on a garment? It was called a back stitch. It's still called a back stitch. So that is so firm that it's even more difficult to rip it than a machine stitch. And you do it all
There isn't. So the rigor you mentioned, you talk about weather, you talk about blues, changing to greens.
Yes.
I mean, that's you talk about days of discussion.
Yes.
And all of that. A lot of people don't realize. You see the finalized product, the actor or the actress wearing a costume, and you're like, okay, you know.
But you know
bought from
yes.
Zara or whatever.
Yes.
But it's not like that.
No. In fact, I've in one of my own productions many years later, the director was in fact Anup, and there was. We don't realize that color is so important because it actually changes. You know, color has the power to so I'll tell you this sequence. This is something we had filmed in which there's this woman and this man who are very deeply in love. It's a play by Eugene O'Neill. This is my own production years ago. I'm talking not from Bhanu's thing, but I'll tell you why this is so important. And the sequences of this woman and this man talking through the night, deeply in love with each other but unable to speak of their love or to even confess it to each other. And every time they tend to come close, one of the other says something that makes them move apart. So they never really manage to come close physically in the night. And it's an outdoor thing, it's in the night. Now, Anup, who has obviously trained with Kumar and is a director of a certain sensibility, he chose a more violet kind of a thing for the man, and my character, the woman, was wearing a very bright orange. Both these colors stood out in the night. It's also carried forward from the day, so they don't really change their clothes. She changes into this orange. Now when you watch it on the screen in this long sequence where they are speaking through the night till it turns into dawn, what would happen is that every time they were apart in the frame, far apart, these colors were pulling towards each other. You know, the energy between the colors was like
magnetic.
It was like pulling, they were moving towards each other, the colors. And the minute they came this close, the colors would repel. And after some time you realize, oh my god, you know, apart from the fact that as an actor and an actress, the two of us, my co-actor and I, were doing definitely a very good job of keeping this very delicate balance between being attracted to each other and not being able to come together. The colors were huge in terms of creating this attraction and repulsion. So whenever they're far apart, the colors are dying to come to each other, pulling towards each other. And the minute they come this close, they start wanting to be free of each other. And that is just the thing of putting colors together. And I think people like Bhanu, Kumar and certain other filmmakers understand that. Most people have no idea about why they're using color and how, and they don't even see it holistically in the entire colorscape of the film, emotional, architectural. They don't understand it. But Bhanu understood these things, and she had, I think, people like Kumar, and I think she, from what Alak tells me also, and also what Bhanu would tell me, Bhanu would very subtly add to a director's vision without him probably even asking for what could be done. For example, Alak told me that she was very protective about the actresses because in the early days it was a very male industry. There were very few women who were working behind the cameras. It was all men. Even till recently it was mostly men. Makeup artists were men, hair people were men. So I think so the actress was normally surrounded by a lot of male presence apart from some aunt or some mother or sister she brought from home. So Bhanu apparently, Alak tells me, used to be not just designing the costume, but she was extremely protective of the space of the actress, and her costume design was also designed to make the actress very comfortable in her body. Even if it was a revealing costume, it would be done in a way where the actress did not feel that her body was being subject to the male gaze in a certain way, where the body had a protective armor almost, which was Bhanu's costume, where it was alluring but without making an object of the actress's body, and that is something very important. And I also remember Bhanu telling me herself, and she told me this lovely story about Sahabibi or Gulam, where she said Meena Kumari was very plump by that time, also because of the drinking and all that. So there was a little weight on the body and she had to look alluring in that song Na Jao Saiya Choda Ke Bhaiya Bhaiya Kasam Tumhari Main Ro Padungi. Now Gurudat wanted her to wear a Banarsi silk sari, and when Meena Kumari was draped in a Banarsi silk sari, Meena Kumari herself realized that it's too bulky because the silk tends to have a little more volume. So what apparently Bhanu did was she bought a whole 6 meters of very thin net and actually had the whole Banarsi effect sort of, I don't know,
embroidery
she did something done on it which created this sense of it's a Banarsi silk, but it draped like a dream, kept the actress slim, and at the same time the director got the Banarsi look that he wanted. And so she went through all this effort just to make the actress feel, good about the fact that while she had to wear a Banarsi, she was still not being puffed out on camera. So Bhanu herself told me that story about this. And coming back to costuming, your question was that I was always very conscious from the time, and we would, because we didn't have internet and stuff, as young kids, what we did was either you learned how to type quickly on the typewriter, the old one, so you took typing classes, or you did tailoring classes, and I was always fascinated somehow by tailoring, stitching, crochet, knitting, all of that. So when it's almost impossible for a costume designer to satisfy someone like me, even though I was a kid, and even till date. Bhanu, of course, she's a great senior person and all, but I have also dealt with a lot of senior, later on in years, with people who have a lot of experience of the industry. I don't think there's anyone like Bhanu in terms of not just her choice of styling, the way she would style, very, very timeless. If you see my photographs of Khiladiyon Ka Khiladi, for which she designed, those costumes are timeless. They are classically, Western, but perfect for the Indian screen. I don't remember ever having to put a pin to fix something. Once you wore a costume, it was like a second skin which had come onto you, and it was comfortable. It did not, to the point where sometimes they use zari and they use sequins and things, and it pokes your skin. With Bhanu, every aspect of the costume, whether it was inside or outside, was just so comfortable and so well fitted. You never felt there was something poking you here or that this needs pinching. There was no tucking and tacking that she did, on you.
Yeah, a couple of things you mentioned. just remind me of a few things. One, the colors, like Kurs and the black and white costumes.
Oh, still timeless. I mean, still stand out big time.
I mean, so you can look at the scene that the costume itself is conveying a message that.
And it's also very chess, you know.
It's very
chess.
So
this is a woman who manipulates, who's been playing her moves a lot, and yeah, there are many resonances to that black and white.
And you also mentioned the male gaze. So one of her early works when she was at the JJ school.
Yes.
And she used to live in a convent in Masgao actually. Was a painting called Lady in Repose, for which she won the JJ school gold medal.
Yes, I saw that painting thanks to this exhibition that you're putting together.
Right, and so in a sense that painting is all about convent colors, the stained glass colors.
Yes.
And the Lady in Repose, which I guess it's herself, but to hide from the male gaze, it's abstracted out.
Right.
Interestingly, making it one of the earliest abstract paintings done in original abstract paintings done in India.
Yes.
So it's not just costumes, but in her modern art career itself leaves a lot behind for others to kind of follow and get influenced by.
Yes.
So you know, I'm just making the analogy. You mentioned the male gaze, and that's exactly what that painting is about.
No, one of the photographs you have is of who's in that wonderful fish shape?
It's Nadira.
Nadira. What a costume!
There's one of Nargis.
Nargis, the one with Nargis. What a costume! If somebody could do that for me, I would wear it, you know, to half the events, or parties, or costume. I mean, cinematically, it's just magical. Bhanu took you to the level of Adbhut Rasa in her ability to create. I mean, I'm being really blunt in saying the role I was doing in Khiladiyon Ka Khiladi was, you know, given to Rekha because she was the bigger star obviously at that time and she showed an interest in doing it. So in the interim period of where we were waiting because we didn't get permission from Russia, we were going to go to Canada. So Bombay happened in between, which is when the role went from me to Rekha. So obviously out of curiosity, I saw the film later. But you know I shouldn't say it, it's not very diplomatic, but I have to say it because it's important to say these things in terms of the aesthetic and in the larger context of what it means to be costumed and to design costume. But if you see Khiladiyon Ka Khiladi and you see Rekha's costume, they're completely tacky. It's just swaths of material somehow floating all around and wigs and all sorts of things. And the picture that I have of what Bhanu had designed for this character are just super class. Fabulously glamorous for the film industry, Bollywood, everything. At the same time, timeless till today. You know, 30 years later, there's still something that is high glamour.
But I think it's like yesterday we were on a chat and we were talking about with Wahida ji, and we were talking about how she was draped in this sari with a zip, and she's like
जीने की तमन्ना है.
And she was tell
on the
she
screen
can't
that it was
tell, and
no doubt, yes.
She was like, that's, I mean, today that's what most designers are doing with those ready.
But they do it because they don't even know how to drape.
Yes, exactly.
That's
They do it because they don't know how to
that's what she
drape.
was talking about.
And it's amazing how many actresses don't know how to wear a sari, and half the costume designers don't know how to drape a sari. You won't believe, for this film, which is a Michael Winterbottom film called Trishna, in which there was Frida Pinto, I played the mother. We were shooting in Rajasthan. I had a day off. They had got the costume designers from India. I'm forgetting who they were. And suddenly there's a tap on my door. It's like, are you free, ma'am? Yes. Do you know how to drape a sari? I had to come down and drape the sari for a particular scene on Frida Pinto and the other actress because nobody knew how to drape a sari.
Well, today you have people coming to the house to drape your saris for you.
Can you imagine?
It's a job.
Even when I'm dressing up, very often the costume designer, you know, the makeup, the hair woman will come and, madam, sari pehenna hai? Haan. She'll come there and start fussing. I said, no, leave it alone. And like, no, but don't you need help? I said, no, I don't need any help. You know, I'll make my own pleats, I'll make my own pallu, everything, thank you very much. And very often they get the pleats all wrong. They shove them in the center. You're supposed to put it on the left leg. It's supposed to open out like a fan when you walk, and it also allows you to walk properly. So there were many things. So with Bhanu, in fact, the zip thing that she did was later on after Khiladiyon Ka Khiladi, Khayal Gatha and all of that. I was going to do a play called The Greater Dawn, Shri Aurobindo's Savitri. and Veena Pani Chawla was the director, and it's a very movement based play. I do Kalari Pai, the movements are taken from Kalari, from Chow, from Manipuri dancing, and it is you have the photographs and send them to you. There's a whole lot of stuff there, and obviously we need the Amrapali kind of thing, and Veena saying how will we do this, and for me also it was an anxiety thing, because I said, Veena, there's only one person who's going to be able to do this costume, and that is Bhanu Athaiya. And Veena said, she's the Oscar winner, how can we approach her? I said, I know her, but she'll be so expensive, we don't have this kind of money in the theatre. I said, look, let's just go and talk to her. First of all, I need to know if she'll want to do it. If our play deserves a costume, it's something we'll have to first convince her about. So I think Bhanu actually came to see one rehearsal and then said, yes, I'll do it. And then Veena said, Bhanu, the money. Bhanu saying, did I ask you for any money? Did I tell you? So be relaxed, And then Bhanu did this exquisite thing, which was a dhoti tied beautifully at the waist and absolutely body hugging. And it was something I could wear in 5 minutes. There was a zip somewhere, and there was on the kanchuki there was 2 hooks and some drape that came on, which became part of the thing, and that was it. I didn't have to do anything. She created that, and she created it out of a kind of a chiffon which was cream colored, but lined it with malmal, and it just had this absolutely wonderful drape of like a malmal, like a the kind of,
because chiffon with its lightness gives that sensuousness,
and then she's given a malmal underneath, so there's a the comfort, and also it gives it an almost the organic feel almost.
You mentioned Alakanda Summer. Any interaction or any with Hima Devi, who was also instrumental early on in Bhanu's career and bringing her to?
No, I would be too junior. I was just in my early 20s when I met Bhanu for the first time, and Bhanu was already the great Oscar winner and someone who was highly celebrated. So I don't know about Hina Devi, but definitely these were the things with Bhanu. And when we were traveling to Mandu, I remember all of us were on the train, and she was very cool about traveling. We were all traveling second class in the train. Me, lead actress, Bhanu Athaiya, Oscar designer. Yeah, Kumar Shahani, our film.
So nice.
Our film director, we were all second class dabba on our berths. It's just that the whole unit was in the second class, so practically the whole thing. But there was no AC sleeper, nothing, no fancy shamancy, So we would all be sitting around on those wooden slatted second class. All my best films have actually been with no fancy stuff about it. I think something so organic happens that you work from your soul, I remember there. And then there was this car ride to Mandu, and then Bhanu would of course give me little vignettes because I'd be interested, or if I'd worked with a Bollywood, those days Hindi film actress. So she would give me tiny little vignettes with a twinkle in her eye. But yes, they go and get these things put, these little injections with cow's fat, which gives you what later on got to be known as Botox. So I'm like, really, Bhanu? Do I need it? I'm going to do enough like silly, you're 25 years old. And as far as possible, don't ever get it done. So, so she would be, she could even be at that level light-hearted and, frivolous in a nice way, where we could talk about other things. She wasn't some heavy-duty sort of person you could only talk,
So she was very simple.
Very simple.
Very simple.
Were the costumes loaned to like Kumar Shahani, or were they like how were the costumes were made and then they were kept or returned, or what? Did you remember anything?
I don't know, but I would imagine that some amount of money must have been made for paying for them. And I don't think, because once they're used in the film, they're not going to be of use to Kumar. He wouldn't have had the wherewithal to store them, because with every new film he will do a new design. See, these filmmakers were not the sort who stored things for somehow using. So I would imagine that perhaps Bhanu must have definitely not charged the art filmmakers the money that the mainstream industry would have given, but she would have still given it the best. So I don't know, but I imagine that those costumes would mostly probably go back.
She used to get them back because people like Kumar Shahani didn't have those budgets at all.
They didn't have a budget, so I imagine Bhanu.
So she basically made it very
almost for
reasonable.
free.
Yeah. It was more like a hiring charge for the costume.
Exactly, but with all her effort, her creativity, the fabrics and all.
And
the
they would come back
beautiful.
to her. They would come back to her.
I'm sure, and plus, she would have, at least been able to keep them well because,
a lot has survived, and they were all in that studio. That
really, including the Khayal costumes.
Yeah, well, Khayal costume, I don't think has come.
So we
saw this one really nice costume which we're actually displaying in the exhibition as well. It's this green gown.
That's
from Hima Devi. Hima Devi's Taming of the Shrew.
Oh, was that Alkazi's time or something? Alkazi's production?
Early 80s, I think.
Yeah.
Early 80s. Might have been even earlier to that. Because if it was for theatre, then it's possible that it might have been the 70s when Alkazi was big. And I think Hima Devi, is she in any context Alkazi's actress? Because Alaknanda was very much...
Hima Devi had her own...
because Alaknanda did do a play for Alkazi.
Yes.
Miss Julie. A very young Alaknanda.
So, I mean...
No, Hima Devi was even in 93.
But at the time, I don't know much about her.
She was there from the time my mother came to Mumbai, which is like 48, 50.
So then they must have worked at that time.
And she did plays for her right till the end. And Hima Devi, I think, passed away in 95 or 96.
I'm sure. In fact, my biggest regret is that I did not, I should have actually completely immersed myself in, even if I didn't have the film, but our kind of journey, or as my kind of journey as an actress, was also very fraught with not having enough finances most of the time, because we did the art films and the payments were more like honorariums, and we never asked because we were not sort of brought up like that. It took me many years to start asking for.
And you wanted that experience.
And we were just sort of, it was like a soul connection. When you enter these films, you were made for them. They were meant for you, and everybody who was working there, and we had this great belief in the idea that cinema is the biggest, the most sacred space, and so even if you're just connected with it and you give it your energy, it is a great phase of your whole life. So this whole business of talking monies came much later, but when Bhanu passed away, it suddenly struck me with such a pang that I said, I should have just actually maybe filled my wardrobe with a lot more of her creations for my daily life, for winter, for spring, for walking into a lot of the film things. And it never struck me that maybe I could ask her for that, collect my money, pay for those sort of things and have that in my wardrobe. I just sort of let it be limited to theatre and films, but later on I wished I had. When I started buying from other designers many years later, I said, why did I even think of those other designers, buying from them, and why didn't I just go to Bhanu instead, And I feel that's a huge loss or a lack of awareness that must have been with me at that time. It just hit me like between the eyes. If after I went to her house expecting to find her lying in state and say my farewell, I came back and for 3 days I was writing in my diary about, Bhanu, why didn't I do this and why didn't I see you every month? And it's my loss that I did not stay so much in touch with someone like her throughout my life in Mumbai.
Bhanu never did theatre, films and all that. She never did anything personal.
In the beginning she did.
Personal for, she used to do Kamani Auditorium.
No, she would have.
She did for Simi.
Yeah. If you actually asked her, she would have, because she was a giver in that sense, and if she understood that you have because you, as an actress, what more can be more fabulous for you than to have a few garments that are absolutely timeless and fabulous, and that would have.
Like she did Sadhna's trousseau. Sadhna's wedding, everything. I
Because
remember I
actually-
carried them to Sadhna's feast.
Really? Because I haven't honestly I've done so many films in different languages and until date. In fact, it's now worse than ever. Nobody knows the difference. I once had to conduct a workshop at the National Institute of Fashion Technology twice. They invited me to it. The first one in 2000. And I said, you know what is the biggest nightmare? I asked these young designers, they were 5th semester designers, students for fashion design, NIFT Delhi. They said, you know what is the biggest nightmare for an actress? Bad script. I said, no, that you know in the beginning. Bad director, co-actor, they went through everything except themselves. I said, no, a bad costume person. I said, because when everything is great, along comes this costume person and messes up everything for you. And they were like quite gobsmacked, And then the second year when we had the workshop, I would do these 5-week things with them. They actually designed badly for themselves and they had to go on stage wearing their own costumes and some of them started crying. Ma'am, this is not worked out well, how can I wear this? I said, you realize how important the costume is? I said, it can destroy your entire self-confidence in your
whole performance.
Your performance. You're ready 100% and costume, a bad or a slightly off costume can knock it off by a good 60%.
But there are also so many different roles now. Like first there was the costume designer, now you have a fashion designer, you have a stylist, you have
it's all
Bhanu did this
designer.
beauty herself.
Yes.
Even for Khiladi, the earrings that I'm wearing in the photographs, down to the footwear, the leather boots in the mini skirt with the leather mini skirt was all done by her.
Because
she had packed everything from the earrings to the shoes to the gloves to the inside, outside, everything would come in one packet, one plastic beautifully sealed that this is one set, right from everything.
The entire look.
So this whole business of stylist and there's this one and that one and then on top of everything now there are these.
There's no cohesion between them and.
They don't know this stuff.
Depth of knowledge then within them. It's like we're talking about saris today, right? So I guess it's similar where you don't actually study the colors and the silhouettes and the materials.
No, they don't know the fall of the fabric. Most people don't know how a fabric is supposed to behave. They have no idea what it means that the fabric, whether you cut at a bias or what is the weight of this fabric, how will it hold onto the body, how will it fall, how will it move.
So one of the important parts of the exhibition, or an important piece in the exhibition is her sewing machine, which she inherited from her mother.
Oh my.
And so she was actually, using that herself.
Yes.
She went for tailoring classes. She
It's
learned
important.
paper cutting. She did everything. Even when she used, say, batik, there was these big basin tubs, which she learned batik at home. There was a lady called Nanda who used to come to the house to teach her, and I remember learning also. Batik was taught to her that this is the way the cracks will go. This is the way it will look.
There is such joy in constant learning, especially when it's connected to your life path. And it was, Bhanu, I think, was someone whose the love of her craft and her design and her chosen path was what made her eyes twinkle all the time. Because this industry is not a place that appreciates individuality and talent very often. They're much more at home with mediocrity. They feel safer. They feel they know you. Someone who's as phenomenally talented or as individuated or as independent with no godfather is nothing.
No godfather whatsoever.
Yeah, so that would be Bhanu also. I mean, Bhanu is
Self-made,
that
100%,
totally.
100%
So
self-made.
it's very hard for our industry very often to be able to want to celebrate people like that. They would rather push you under the carpet as an exception and say, oh, you just stay there, but they'll feel much more happy with someone who, be mediocre and ask them through 200 questions and keep kowtowing and, But I think, so what I'm saying is that the twinkle in Bhanu's eyes and the joy and the love light that shone from them was because there was this person inside her that was constantly interested, jigyasa bhava is what and constantly innovating and constantly moving on her own path. So in a sense then, you're not just designing costume, you're not a costume designer, you're a you're a spiritual being, you know, where costume designing is concerned.
You had one comment that you made, I guess, in the middle, that after Bhanu there's no costume.
No, there isn't. I don't believe I can say that. I'm so sorry, everybody, you're from the industry, but I don't think if the first 50 positions have to be decided for costume design, they'll all be Bhanus. Maybe 51 onwards, people can start placing themselves.
In fact, the other day Wahida ji was saying that she would come there when she was discussing the costumes on the set with the directors. She would ask what the mood was,
Yes.
what the scene was, so that she could decide on the color and things. And they used to say, "Aapko kapda banana hai, kya scene hoga, kya mood hoga, usse kya matlab?"
No, exactly.
You
And
know,
this is exactly,
that is-
strangely you should say this, because this is what, as an actress, I was teaching these young designers at the NIFT, that you have to see beauty in every single body, not just in that perfect size. And you have to see a body in movement, not just how the garment will look on your stiff mannequin or in a photo shoot. How would it be when the person moves, sits, stands, whatever? And you have to learn to see beauty in every shape and size and body form. You know, you can't just, and you should be able to just map the body like that and know in a minute whether this is endomorphic, mesomorphic, ectomorphic, you know, the body structure, and whether this person needs a high collar or a, you know, whatever, immediately.
Like in Satyam Shivam Sundaram, she got a plaster of Paris torso done,
Yes.
and the model done, and she used to drape Sinath's little dhotis.
Yes.
She said that it was such little cloth that I have to ensure that she feels comfortable.
Yes. Yes.
So it had to be draped in a particular way so that she can walk confidently.
Yes. Yes.
Without tugging and pulling.
Yes.
You know.
Yes. And there is nothing more vulgar than a costume that is trying to be something else and not managing. You know?
It's like she told us about Reshma.
Only show one eye, not both eyes. And
See,
you'll be like,
so
you know,
performance is so important. But that was only Bhanu. I don't think anybody thinks like that at all. They don't know. Actually, they don't know what it is to be a costume designer.
But she's always seeking. She was always wanting to learn.
Yes.
And it wasn't that a village in Rajasthan would be very different from a village in the south or in Gujarat. You know, that she will see the nuances, the differences.
Yes,
that
of
are
course,
there.
because the
One observant
ethnicities are very
eye
important.
will- yes.
You know. Now, recently, I was approached by some students of a particular film institute here in Mumbai to do some role in a film, and they said, "Oh, she's a widow, and then she commits suicide at the end." So I said, "Yeah, but which part of the country?" Saying, "Ma'am, that's not important. It's a widow." I said, "Yeah, but is she a widow from Punjab? Is she from Bengal? Where is she from? Because how are you going to decide what she wears? What is the architecture of this village that she's living in? And if she jumps in the well and kills herself, is it a Punjab village which will probably be, you know, having all that thing? Or is it one of those ground well things which is, you know, I said, even the architecture of the well she's going to jump into will be decided by the ethnicity that you put it in. So how can you just say this is a general thing? You don't have to be specific. You know, it's incredible. So the specificity is the key to actually knowing.
Like when they were shooting for Lagan in Wai,
Yes.
they were creating a Rajasthan location.
Yes.
And these people came in their Maharashtrian dhotis and they were made to wear the different Rajasthani style dhotis, and
Yes.
their haircuts were changed.
Yes.
And, you know, suddenly she get their hair cropped, and you know, because they have to look like that. They can't have the Maharashtrian moustache.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So
No, it's
even in Gandhi, when she was dressing the extras in Delhi, people would come in drain pipes with long hair. You know, you're talking about 80s.
yes.
When you're shooting for a period that is in the 40s.
Yes.
So it's
And you're the expanse that you're covering in that
Yeah.
film. Like,
so, you know, in the locale, India is such a big country, but everybody dresses so differently.
Yes. No, Bhanu is one of a kind. I don't think there'll be another one like her, not for a long time.
So the goal of the exhibition, of course, is this is just the beginning. We yet have to identify many of the costumes as to where they belong, the actual physical costumes. her sketches, which are very elaborate, will probably be displaying around 30-40 of them this time, with over 500.
Could you also print them as books?
And that's so that, in fact, Bhanu's desire was that she would publish a second book on purely her costume sketches.
Oh, wonderful.
Which never happened. But so this is all research. The exhibitions are kind of a research initiative leading up to.
Yes, because I think it's very important that this be there as the Dharohar, literally, the legacy of.
This needs to be archived in a museum, otherwise it's impossible for it to be preserved.
No, also some good publisher to actually have these books as a sort of volume, you know. Like I have, tell you about my passion for costume designing. I actually bought a book of B.N. Goswamis at a time when I didn't have money. I bought this huge big book on costume, which is all about the traditional angarkhas and all. I wasn't going to tailor them or do anything. I don't even know who will replicate them. I just love that. So I just bought it years ago as a student when 3,000 bucks was a lot of money, which I paid for at that time. But, you know, that book is also timeless, and I feel Bhanu's work could actually be a museum in itself.
So there's obviously mainstream films, and there's theatre, and then there's jewelry.
Then there's all our films which were not so mainstream, but she gave it the most resplendent costumes ever.
Besides that, there's jewelry design. I mean, there's tons of.
But I do find it sort of surprising that given in a country where Bollywood plays such an important role in sort of setting the tone for Indian fashion, you have your weddings, and it's so influential in that sense, and we don't have a museum which houses anything like.
No, but if you look at Bombay,
fashion.
what have we done? If this was the place where the film industry began, every architectural space that we had, at least some of it could have been dedicated to cinemas. It gets turned into parking lots and shopping malls
like
in a drop of a hat. Artist studio. I remember I was telling Rishi Kapoor when we were shooting for some film together, Kuch Khatti, Kuch Meethi or something. And I was very naive. I was already in the industry 5-7 years. I had done all my major work for my art directors, and I was still there. But I remember also saying, it's so difficult, this space in Chembur, artist studios, how do we maintain it and all. And I just said to him, I said, why don't you donate it to the industry and then create studios, make a studio which the industry can maintain, and possibly one part of it could become a hospital for all the workers of the industry. And he looked at me and he said, are you mad? So I realized, oh my God, I've just, probably, are you mad? And what is it today? It's an apartment block. With the photographs of all of Raj Kapoor's films for all over the place, but it's an apartment block.
Everything burned down before that.
Yeah.
It was sad.
So we in the industry, we do not know, even somebody like Bimal Roy's bungalow or Dilip Saab's house or something, if, I don't know what the legalities are, who owns the property or what it is, but these are the spaces that could have just been taken over and preserved, and they would have, mind you, got a lot of revenue. For people who want to see things that belong to the industry in the golden period, in those great films and all. Now we have one tacky film city, where they say Film City Tour, and they have a bus with some painted actors' faces on it. There's nothing to see in that film city. Bombay could have, especially from Bandra onwards, Chembur, Bandra onwards, they could have actually had, museums and little spaces like in Europe, where you go and you say, this belongs to so-and-so painter, the studio, this is where he lived. You go to Italy or somewhere further down.
You go and see Emily Dixon's house.
That's what I mean. We could have done that here, but we don't. I don't know. We're very short-sighted in terms of our legacy.
It will come, I think. It's it's an economic thing as the country becomes richer and all that. I mean, people will focus more towards culture, and it will come.
No, I don't think they will focus towards culture. I think the change will be more in the shift in terms of education at every level has gone down. Even the major institutes, they don't have the great teachers who taught us. A lot of the greats have gone. You may not have another Kumar Gandharv, another Bhanu Athaiya, another Bhimsen Joshi for a long, long, long time. So I think there will be a shift in the universe eventually, when maybe again this thing will come because people would have had enough of it. I don't think it's really to do with money.
But I think you're right. The golden period of Bollywood is probably getting lost or forgotten because it's not getting archived enough.
Because it's not archived, they don't think it's important to archive. You know, the respect for tradition. For example, some years ago, and we can go off camera here if necessary, but when Shah Rukh Khan and all made a lot of fun of Manoj Kumar and his Mr. Bharat image, and they mimicked him and all that, he objected to it, and there was also some sort of public protest, and then these fellows had to apologize to him. So I mean, fine, it may not be your thing, but because you're a superstar now, you can't just decry the big stars of the earlier days as if they don't count. After all, if the industry has come to this point, it's a river. They paved the way. Which every single actor, great star, whatever, they have made the way.
You know, I'll share an anecdote. Like I was in San Francisco once upon a time, and there was an Indian Film Festival.
Yes.
And the starting movie of that was a Gurudat movie. So,
Right.
So it takes people internationally to tell us and look at these movies.
Yes.
And I was probably one of the few Indians out there. It was entirely stuffed with people from San Francisco. It was like they loved it.
Yes.
It was in Hindi with subtitles, of course, but they loved it.
Yeah, but we've had our time of reading. And I don't know, I think at the moment we are, the Hindi film industry is a bunch of uneducated people, really. You're pretty uneducated.
Well, that's why I guess all around India now, the South Indian.
They're doing
because
they
they have stayed with their tradition.
They're doing such great work.
Because they never move away from their tradition. They stay with their roots. They have most of all the young men who dance and all of that have also trained in Bharatanatyam and everything.
Even Maharashtrian, like Marathi cinema.
Yes, so when you're with your roots, you can't get lost. You can improvise like anything.
Winning a Golden Globe is not easy, and they've done that. And one reason they've been able to, the song is original. I mean, the sequence and dance are 100% original.
Completely.
There's not copied from anywhere.
No, there's no Michael Jackson hangover. There's no John Travolta.
Right.
There's no Tom Cruise there. Nothing.
You can't fool the Golden Globe cover is not easy to fool. There's 100. I mean, it's you look at that, you see that again. It's like you look a little odd how they do it, but it's 100%
No, it's
original.
fabulous.
I mean, it's fabulous.
And the energy is
different
so
way.
infectious. It's so actually so affirmative.
It's a natural reaction to get up in the hall while you're watching it and start dancing, which they did there.
Yeah, so people like, I don't know.
And they even have a story going on, right? Which is the way we did our cinemas earlier on. That it develops the story. There's this whole rivalry going on between these two men. And then they get into this whole thing, which is celebrating the
And you normally don't see somebody like top star like Jessica Chastain saying that, okay, it's a party. I mean, this movie was a complete superb movie.
Yes.
I mean, that kind of feedback you don't get, and it's all coming from the South. So
yeah. In fact, I think we have tremendous traditions, and we just the Hindi film industry has kind of lost them.
It'll come.
It will eventually come, but it'll come with they'll have to really take a hard look at things, and then perhaps get back to it. But right now they're lost because they lost their own thing for a long time. They've been trying to do remakes of Hollywood. Somebody or the other is trying to look like somebody or the other from Hollywood all the time. Copy their fashions and all that. They don't do that. I mean, the South doesn't do that really.
Well, look at their Bahubali.
Yes. Would you like some tea, coffee, another nimbu pani?
I'm fine.
Something.
Any other comments? So what does it take to make a Bhanu? In the sense that I think we spoke about the golden period of Bollywood, and she was kind of there at that time. And
I don't think she was there because of Bollywood. I think she
so what is
was
it? My question is, what would it take to create another one?
And Bollywood is a term they coined in 1993. So before that, it was a Hindi film industry,
okay.
which was very clearly, I think Bollywood has done something. It's made you feel like you're bubble gum being chewed over and over again. That title. It may have become popular, but I don't think it does as much gravitas. It doesn't give you a sense of self, I think that someone like Bhanu is someone who paves the way because of who she is and how she is connected to her art. I think I don't think it has to do with the Hindi film industry giving her a place. I think the Hindi film industry is richer because someone like her
So obviously
is there.
Bhanu
Is
was-
there, I would say, or was there. And she made her way. And some of the people who made her design for them probably had the deep inner sensitivity and sensibility to know that this is the person we need to be with. You know, this is the person we need for our films.
So I mean, obviously, Bhanu had a lot of history in the sense of father who encouraged her art. You know, even though he passed away when she was very young, and then the whole Kolhapur art movement. And
Yes.
then,
The film movement
the
there.
film movement there.
So
but-
we're learning all this because of the exhibition you're doing now. But how many
So-
of us knew this for the last 30 years? We didn't.
So Kolhapur was famous for, I mean, Babu Rao Painter, who was both a superb artist and a
Yeah.
superb filmmaker,
Yes.
both. So then the connection between art and film was already there, and then she comes to Bombay, I guess, studies at JJ School, becomes a member of the Progressive Artist Group, which is, you know, a huge honor in itself. And at the same time, she's working
Become
with
an
Hima
illustrator,
Devi,
yeah.
illustrator, and so it takes a lot to, I mean, a lot of background is there, a lot of passion, education.
That is there for any great artist.
And also you
And
don't
I-
restrict your creativity to one form.
You can't.
You spread it around.
You basically you become interactive with all of the processes around you, creative processes and all of life. And that is what will then flow into this one river. There are many streams. Even in acting, when I have to prepare for a role, I don't just sit with the script endlessly. No, I read the script and then forget about it. Somewhere it starts working itself inside, but you're also doing things like music, then you're doing something to do with movement, then you do something that's literature connected, which has nothing to do. For example, when we were shooting a film like Siddheshwari, Manikal wasn't reciting to us Siddheshwari's Tumris. Those were there already. He was sitting and reciting Meer Taki Meer, you know. So I realized that creativity, in fact, a lot of the greater artists don't actually limit themselves to their own final output. It's a churning, it's a constant, many things coming together, which they allow to absorb, to flow through them, intermingle inside
And have
them.
an Amrit Manthan. literally.
To have an Amrit Manthan inside themselves, you know. And this is the thing that most people don't understand, that to be a great artist, like Bhanu is, and like a lot of our musicians and everybody has been filmmakers, you have to study.
Have to say.
You have to be educated, erudite, in some way or the other. Creativity is not something in the air that you just say, I should just become zoned out and I'm creative.
And I know everything.
Yeah.
And I know everything. Come, Mama, go ahead. Yeah, please. Cross the frame, it's okay. So I know everything. It's not like that at all.
Like she always believed she was a student.
Mama, go from here. Yes, please. Okay. Yes.
That is important, education. You have to.
No, they don't understand. The artists, costume designers, filmmakers today think that all you have to do is have a project in which you spend time, take a few references from here, there and everywhere, and you're creative and you put it together. That's not it. You know?
No, and also like she was, I think, the only person who did the sketch herself, bought the fabric herself, instructed her embroiderers, tailors herself, knew exactly about drapes and cuts. So
Yes.
she knew which fabric to use
Yes.
for that. Got the jewelry, had pieces broken up and fixed together.
Yes.
So it was an understanding of that entire persona.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
that's
with
what
that
I
solid
mean.
educational
Now you have
background
The
of
heritage,
arts
the
and
culture.
heritage and JD School of Arts
and that she got a scholarship in Paris is also
Yes.
Amazing.
for a year.
Wow.
So
there was a lot there. You need to be a river, not one little raindrop trying to be creative, you know. And that's the river Bhanu was.
I mean, today you have people, somebody else sketches it, somebody else takes the brief.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Now you have so many, roles. There's much like micromanagement in that sense. And I guess because of that, a lack of depth in any of the actual roles.
It's everywhere in almost every field, not just costume. It's in direction. I just had to wear a costume just now, which was so uninteresting. And I said, surely, just because she's playing the role of a person in power and authority, She doesn't have to be dressed like a politician in Nehru jackets and all, please. I kept giving them things from Instagram. That look at this lady. She's a writer, and this character I play is a Muslim woman. And I said, first of all, why have you changed the name from the Hindu to the Muslim? There has to be. So I said, they work a lot with beautiful embroideries, traditional things. So can you bring some of that beauty here? No, it was just like, it was painful.
Then it doesn't become a cohesive whole, That's the unfortunate thing.
Any closing comments?
I guess my sort of final question would be, which would you consider the favorite or your favorite piece that Bhanu designed for you?
It's very
most memorable one, I guess.
I had never ever worn an angarkha of the kind she did. Okay. Then the costume for Savitri, Satyavan Savitri, which is where I play Savitri in the Greater Dawn.
Right.
Amrapali thing. I think every piece Bhanu designed was something that was complete in itself, and it's in that sense very hard to play favorites personally for me from all the things that she designed. In fact, I try to sometimes give that color, that particular blue that she had created, and ask somebody who was designing a Western outfit to me, can you do it like this blue? It's very hard because with every single piece Bhanu did, nothing was less or more. It was always her whole being went into it. So much so that I remember Uday Bhavalkar, who I learned music from, who's now Pandit Uday Bhavalkar, but we go back to 25 years when we were all more than that, 33 years. And he was just the young Shishya of Bade Ustad, Zia Mohiuddin Dagar Sahab, and he had been asked to do one shot as a musician. So when Bhanu passed away, he and I happened to be on the phone together, and I said, so I was pouring out, not in a way telling him my angst about why was I in Bombay for 15 years, and why is it that I didn't meet Bhanu every month, because that would have been so enriching for me. And what was I doing that was so important that somehow it didn't strike me that maybe I should catch hold of Bhanu and say, Bhanu, I have to meet you once a month. And maybe take you out for lunch, or we have to meet once a month. I said, how could I just let her go like that? This was my reaction to the minute when I got to know she's not there, because suddenly it hits you. And so I was really sort of torn by that sense of loss, which I realized went much deeper than I had imagined, than I ever knew. So he said, but she was like that. He says, I remember when I had come to the shooting of Khayal Gatha, I was a nobody. I had one shot, and she came personally to dress him. I think there were one or two assistants around, but she didn't. The assistants were probably, left to make notes or something. But she personally came. She said she made me feel so important, as I was a lead role or something. The way she dressed me, the way she asked me if I was comfortable in what she had made. So I think with Bhanu, none of her costumes are something you can take for granted and say, I like this more or that more. I think every single piece that she creates and that you're fortunate to be dressed in is really a privilege and honor and quite a blessing. Absolutely a blessing.
But when you go to a movie, would you sort of recognize, if you saw a movie and recognize that was her costume? Would that come across to you if you saw somebody else?
I think in some of the movies, if I see a costume that is seamless in its fitting, in its elegance, in its design, and also with the theme of the film, I would know it's a Bhanu Athaiya costume.
So once the second book is published or more of these images are brought out in the public domain, I think people will be able to study and recognize these.
That's very important, to bring it to them so that they can actually see, Because I think this thing of bringing back the image, the visual image of her sketches, of the photographs, of the costumes and the actresses and the actors for whom she's created. I think it's important to put that whole thing now in the visual forefront for people to study, because perhaps it will just start awakening a whole aesthetic that would otherwise not happen if these were not in front of you.
And it would be fodder for the students.
For students, for future designers, I think it will be very, very, very vital. And also for the general aesthetic consciousness, collective consciousness. For example, people say Shah Jahan made the Taj Mahal. No, he funded it. He wanted it. He desired it. But the people who made it were ground level artisans who actually sat and crafted each piece so beautifully, the inlay work, the mother of pearl, the lapis lazuli, and the many other things that have gone into every little piece that then gets embedded and makes the dome and all those beautiful spaces. So there's a collective consciousness that is of a very high stature. So imagine if there were 2,000 craftspeople who were the laborer class, what we would call today, but they were so highly skilled as to know which orange and which blue and which purple and which green to match. So that sort of thing comes when you see the Taj Mahal. So if you see, so I think the level of collective consciousness of future designers or even of public people who have nothing to do with the arts except to sort of consume it, it would make for a very discriminatory, aware, elevated consciousness if these things are made available and if people can see them, absorb them, go through the pages of what it has been, her life's journey, her creativity. I think that's so vital to create that space of her resonance so that people can enter that resonance and then start expanding from there.
Thank you. I almost see that one tear coming.
You do? Yes. Gosh.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was so enriching for us.
It's so lovely talking to somebody who has that umbilical cord connect with her in some way.
I think we were so blessed really to be, I feel blessed totally. Which is why I went into this angst almost like, what have I done? How could I miss out on Bhanu and being in the same city for all these years?
Thank you again.
You're most welcome.